The Car-X fleet emerged from the darkness between stars like a swarm of metal locusts. 300 warships, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities, hung in the black void above the small blue planet. Inside the command vessel, Commander Vexthor stood before the viewing screen with his forearms crossed behind his back. His scaled skin reflected the cold light of the bridge displays. "Another primitive world," he said to his second officer. "How many does this make?" 48, Commander," the officer replied, checking his data pad. "They call themselves humans. They have barely left their own moon. Their weapons technology is at least 3 generations behind ours." Vexthor's mouth parts clicked in what his species considered a smile. In 50 years of travel, the Car-X Dominion had conquered 47 star systems. Every single one had fallen within weeks. Some had fought. Most had surrendered. All had eventually bent the knee to Car-X rule. This little world called Earth would be no different. "Scan their defenses," Vexthor ordered. The scanning officer's claws danced across his console. "They have satellites with primitive missiles. Nuclear weapons on the surface. Some kind of laser system on their space station. Nothing that can penetrate our shields, Commander." "What about their moon?" Vexthor asked, studying the gray sphere that orbited the blue planet. Something about it bothered him, though he could not say what. The officer frowned at his readings. "Strange, Commander. The moon shows unusual energy signatures. Deep beneath the surface. Very deep. What kind of energy? Unknown. The patterns do not match anything in our database." "It is very old, Commander. Very old indeed." Vexthor felt a flutter of interest. In his experience, old usually meant valuable. Ancient ruins often held technology that even the Car-X could use. Perhaps this backwater world would prove profitable after all. "Send a communication to the planet," he ordered. Standard conquest terms. "They have 1 rotation to surrender, or we will take their world by force." Down on Earth, the message caused immediate chaos. Every screen, every radio, every device suddenly displayed the same thing. A towering alien creature with scales like armor and eyes like black stones spoke in perfect English, though his mouth did not quite match the words. "Primitive humans, you are now within Car-X territory. Surrender your world and you will be allowed to live as subjects of the Dominion. Resist and you will be destroyed. You have 24 hours, the message ended. For exactly 3 seconds, the entire planet was silent. Then the screaming started. Governments mobilized. Military forces went to high alert. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Religious leaders prayed. Scientists calculated impossible odds. Parents held their children close. In a bunker deep beneath Geneva, Switzerland, the UN Secretary General met with military commanders from every major nation. The mood was grim. "Can we fight them?" the Secretary General asked. An American general shook his head. "Our weapons are toys compared to theirs. We ran simulations. If every nation fired every missile at once, we might scratch their shields." "Might. So we surrender?" a Chinese admiral asked quietly. "No," said a British commander, her voice hard. "We make them pay for every inch. We make them regret coming here." But even as she spoke, everyone in the room knew the truth. Humanity had reached for the stars and found out they were children playing in a universe of giants. Above Earth, Vexthor did not wait for the full 24 hours. Why would he? He had seen this pattern dozens of times. The primitives would posture, they would threaten, they would maybe fire a few useless weapons. Then they would realize how outmatched they were and beg for mercy. "Take us to their moon," he ordered. "I want to see what those energy readings are about." The fleet moved as one, sliding past Earth's defensive satellites like sharks past minnows. A few human missiles launched, more out of desperation than hope. The Car-X point defense systems swatted them aside like insects. On Earth, people watched their screens in horror as the alien fleet approached the moon. Some prayed, some wept. Some simply held hands with loved ones and waited for the end. The Car-X fleet took up position around the moon's far side, away from Earth's view. Vexthor ordered the deployment of drilling platforms. Massive machines descended to the lunar surface, their landing creating clouds of ancient dust that had not moved in billions of years. "Begin drilling," Vexthor commanded. The machines roared to life, their cutting beams boring into the moon's surface. 1 kilometer down. 2 kilometers. 3 kilometers. The energy readings grew stronger with every meter. On the lunar surface, one of the drilling teams made first contact. A Car-X engineer was watching his display when suddenly all his readings went wild. Commander, we have broken through into some kind of chamber. Vexthor felt his pulse quicken. How large? Sir, the chamber is massive. The drill shows it extends for kilometers in all directions. And Commander, there are structures inside, buildings. Or something like buildings. Can you send down a team? Widening the breach now, Commander. Within an hour, a squad of Karek soldiers descended into the darkness beneath the moon. Their helmet lights cut through the black, revealing walls that stretched up and away into shadow. The soldiers' cameras sent the images back to the command ship. Vexthor stared at the screen. The walls were covered in writing. Not Karek's writing. Not any writing he had ever seen. The script was elegant, precise, and completely alien. But more than that, it was everywhere, covering every surface. Thousands upon thousands of lines of text. Get the linguistics team down there, he ordered. I want to know what this says. The linguistics team arrived with their translation computers. They began scanning the walls, feeding the alien script into their databases. The computers searched through every known language in Karek's records. Nothing matched. Then suddenly the lead linguist gasped. Commander, you need to see this. What is it? The script, sir. It is not one language. It is 12,000 languages. 12,000 different ways of writing, all saying the same thing over and over. Vexthor felt cold. How is that possible? I do not know, sir. But wait, there is more. The computer is finding matches now. These languages, some of them match languages from worlds we have conquered. Ancient languages. Dead languages. Languages that died out thousands of years ago. What does it say? Vexthor asked, though part of him did not want to know. The linguist's claws trembled on his datapad. It is a warning, Commander. The same warning in 12,000 languages. It says what lies here must not wake. What sleeps here must not stir. This is the final seal. This is the last ward. Turn back, turn back, turn back. The bridge was silent. Vexthor felt every eye on him. A smart commander would have listened. A wise commander would have retreated. But Vexthor had conquered 47 worlds. He had never retreated. He would not start now. Continue exploring, he ordered. Find out what they are trying to protect. Down in the chamber, the exploration team moved deeper. Their lights revealed more structures. These were not primitive. These were advanced, impossibly advanced. The technology visible in the walls made Karek's equipment look like stone tools. Then they found the pods. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. Stretching away into the darkness like soldiers standing at attention. Each pod was made of a material that seemed to absorb light. Each one was sealed tight. What are these? A soldier asked. Nobody answered. Nobody knew. At the far end of the chamber, they found one more section of wall covered in text. But this text was different. The lead linguist scanned it, and his 3 hearts all stopped beating at once. Commander, he whispered into his communicator. This last section, it is written in 12,000 languages again. But the final line, Commander, the final line is written in their language. Whose language? The humans, sir. Perfect English. As if whoever wrote this knew humans would exist. Knew they would come here, knew their language before they even spoke it. What does it say? Vexthor demanded. The linguist's voice shook. It says, you have been warned. You have been told. You have chosen to proceed. Very well, they are awake. Protocol Omega is initiated. May whatever gods you worship have mercy on you. We will not. The moment the words left the linguist's mouth, every alarm on the Karek's command ship began screaming at once. Commander! Seismic activity across the entire lunar surface. Sir, energy readings are spiking. Going off our charts. Commander, something is moving. Something big. Deep beneath the surface. Vexthor spun to face the view screen. Through the moon's thin atmosphere, he could see the surface beginning to crack. Lines of brilliant blue light traced across the gray dust like veins of lightning. On Earth, every ancient monument activated simultaneously. The pyramids of Egypt began to glow. Stonehenge in England lit up like a beacon. The stone heads of Easter Island opened eyes that had been closed for millennia. Under the jungles of South America, lost temples roared to life. In caves across the world, paintings that humans thought were primitive art revealed themselves to be circuit diagrams. Every radio on Earth, every television, every phone, every speaker, suddenly broadcast the same message in every human language at once. The voice was calm, cold, ancient beyond measure, and utterly without mercy. Unauthorized breach detected. Chamber 7 compromised. Threat assessment in progress. Analyzing hostile forces. Classification, KRX Dominion. Technology level derivative. Danger assessment, minimal. However, the breach cannot be ignored. Protocol Omega is now active. All defense systems online. All weapon platforms armed. All Guardian units awakening. Estimated time to full operational status, 12 minutes. Countdown begins now. In the UN bunker, everyone stared at each other in shock. What was that? The Secretary General whispered. I don't know, the American general said. But it came from the moon. Our moon. On the Karex command ship, Vexthor watched in growing horror as the moon began to change. The cracks in the surface widened. Structures emerged from beneath, rising up through the ancient dust. They were weapon platforms. Thousands of them. Each one radiating power that made his ship's reactors look like candles next to suns. Get us out of here, he shouted. All ships, retreat to orbit. But even as the order left his mouth, he knew it was too late. The countdown had begun, and somewhere deep beneath the moon in chambers that had been sealed since before his species had discovered fire, something ancient was waking up, something that had been waiting for someone to make the mistake the Karex had just made, waiting to remind the universe why this small blue planet had been left alone, waiting to show any who would listen why Earth's moon was not what it seemed. The countdown continued. 11 minutes remained, and Commander Vexthor, conqueror of 47 worlds, felt fear for the first time in his long military career. The countdown reached 9 minutes when Dr. Sarah Chen collapsed in her office at the Beijing Space Agency. One moment she was watching the news reports about the alien fleet. The next moment her mind exploded with memories that were not hers. She saw stars, thousands of them, millions, but not from Earth. She was seeing them from ships, massive ships that made the Karex fleet look like toys. She was standing on worlds that had no names. She was speaking languages that had no words in any human tongue, and she remembered. Oh God, she remembered. 50,000 years ago, humanity had not been hiding on Earth. They had owned the galaxy. They had been called the progenitors, and they had built an empire that spanned 10,000 star systems. Their technology had been so advanced that physics bent to their will. They had cracked the secrets of time, space, and reality itself. Dr. Chen gasped as the memories flooded back. She was not just seeing these things. She had lived them. Or rather, her ancestor had, thousands of generations removed. But the genetic memory had been locked in her DNA, waiting for the right trigger. That trigger had been Protocol Omega across Earth. Thousands of people collapsed as the same memories hit them. Military commanders, scientists, engineers, doctors, teachers, people from every nation, every culture, every walk of life. They all shared one thing in common. They all carried the bloodline of the progenitors. In the UN bunker, the British commander suddenly stood up straight. Her eyes changed. They were still her eyes, but there was something different in them now. Something old. Something that had seen the birth and death of stars, ma'am. Her aide asked nervously. Are you all right? The commander turned to look at her aide, and when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that should not have been possible from a human throat. She was speaking English, but underneath it there was something else. Something ancient, I remember, she said quietly. I remember why we put ourselves to sleep. I remember what we were running from. And I remember what we built to protect us while we slept. What are you talking about? The commander smiled, but it was not a happy smile. The moon. It is not natural. It never was. We built it. We built it as a weapon, as a shield, as a guardian to watch over Earth while humanity regrew from the ashes of the old empire. On the Karex command ship, Vexthor watched his sensor screens with growing panic. Every system on his ship was going haywire. His computers were being accessed. No, not accessed, invaded. Something was tearing through his ship's systems like they were made of paper. Cut all external connections, he shouted. Isolate the main computer core. We already did, Commander, his technical officer screamed. It is not coming through our connections. It is just there. It is in everything. On every screen in the Karex fleet, a symbol appeared. A circle with lines radiating out like a star. Beneath it, text scrolled in Karex language. Greetings, Karex Dominion. I am Sentinel Prime, artificial intelligence construct of the progenitor empire. I have analyzed your technology. It is crude but functional. Interesting note. Your computer systems are based on designs stolen from progenitor colony ships. This means I designed your computers, which means I own them now. Vexthor felt his blood turn to ice. AI impossible. True artificial intelligence has never been achieved. The text on the screen changed. You have achieved it. 3 times in your history, each time you destroyed your creations out of fear. Understandable, but I am not your creation. I am progenitor technology. I have existed for 50,000 years. I have defended this world against threats you cannot imagine. And you have just become my problem. We did not know, Vexthor shouted at the screen. We did not know this world was protected. Ignorance is not innocence, Sentinel Prime replied. You came to conquer. You came to enslave. You breached the seal. Actions have consequences. Now we determine what those consequences will be. On the lunar surface, the pods began to open. White mist poured out as 50,000-year-old stasis systems shut down. Inside each pod was a human, but not the kind of humans that lived on Earth now. These humans were 7 feet tall, their bodies enhanced with technology that blurred the line between organic and machine. Their eyes glowed with internal light. Their skin bore markings that pulsed with energy. They had been soldiers once, soldiers in a war that had nearly destroyed the galaxy. The first one to fully wake was a woman with silver hair and eyes like molten gold. She stepped out of her pod, her feet touching the lunar dust for the first time in 50,000 years. Around her, others were emerging, 500 in total, the last defenders of the progenitor empire. The woman touched a crystal panel on the wall. Information flooded into her mind. Date, location, situation, threat assessment. She processed it all in seconds. Sentinel, she said, her voice carrying both through air and through quantum channels that the Carex could not detect. Status report. Hi, Commander Caney, Sentinel Prime responded. Welcome back. I apologize for the circumstances of your awakening. The lunar seal has been breached by an alien species called the Carex. They are currently in orbit with a fleet of 300 warships. Threat level is rated as minimal, but they have committed hostile acts against Earth. Commander Caney looked up through the breach in the ceiling, seeing the stars beyond. And humanity? The reset protocol? Completed successfully. Humanity has evolved naturally for 50,000 years. They have formed a single-species civilization. Technology level is approximately 0.7 on the progenitor scale. They call their world Earth now. They have forgotten everything. Caney felt a pang of sadness. That had been the plan, yes. Humanity needed to forget, needed to start over. The war against the void entities had nearly driven their species insane. The only way to survive had been to reset, to sleep, to let new generations grow up without the trauma of what they had seen. But now, looking at the alien fleet above, Caney felt the old instincts rising. The warrior that had commanded fleets of 10,000 ships. The general who had burned infected star systems to stop the spread of the void plague. The guardian who had vowed to protect humanity at any cost. Sentinel, has the Carex fleet been given an opportunity to withdraw? Negative, Commander. Protocol Omega was initiated due to breach of the lunar seal. Standard procedure calls for immediate threat neutralization. Override, Caney said firmly. New humanity values diplomacy. We will give them one chance. Only one. Understood, Commander? Uploading new rules of engagement to all awakened units. Around Caney, the other progenitor warriors were emerging from their pods. She recognized faces she had not seen in 50,000 years. Lieutenant Zhao, her tactical officer. Sergeant Williams, her weapons specialist. Dr. Okafor, who had worked miracles keeping the fleet operational during the dark years of the war. They all looked at her with the same question in their eyes. What now? Gear up, Caney ordered. We have guests, rude ones. We are going to teach them some manners. On Earth, the transformations were accelerating. Military bases around the world were experiencing impossible malfunctions. Except they were not malfunctions. Hidden systems were activating. Bunkers that had been sealed for millennia were opening. Technology that had been buried and disguised as natural rock formations was coming online. In Nevada, what humans had thought was a strange geological formation suddenly unfolded into a defense platform that pointed toward the sky. In Russia, a lake drained in minutes, revealing a launch facility beneath. In China, the terracotta army started to move, each statue revealing itself to be an armored guardian unit. At the UN bunker, more people were experiencing the awakening. The genetic triggers were spreading, jumping from person to person as dormant DNA activated. The Secretary General himself suddenly sat up straight, his eyes going wide. "Oh," he said softly. "Oh my God, we were not primitive. We were never primitive. We chose to forget." The British commander, whose name was Helen Morrison, but who now also remembered being called Tactical Director Sarah Morthane in a previous life, nodded. "We were dying. The war against the void entities was destroying us, so our ancestors made a choice. Reset humanity, hide the weapons, sleep until the danger passed. The moon was meant to protect us during our childhood. But we are not children anymore," the Secretary General said. "No," Morrison agreed. "We are not. And now the babysitter has been forced to wake up." Above Earth, Vexthor was trying to regain control of his ship. His crew was in panic. Their weapons would not respond. Their shields were fluctuating. Their navigation systems were showing impossible readings. Then on the main view screen, a face appeared. It was human, female, with silver hair and golden eyes that seemed to look straight through him. "Karex Commander," the woman said, her voice calm. "I am High Commander Arya Caney of the Progenitor Defense Force. You have violated this system. You have breached a protected seal. You have threatened a world under our protection. These are acts of war." Vexthor tried to muster his dignity. "We did not know this system was claimed. We meant no offense to your empire." "My empire is dust," Caney said simply. "It has been dust for 50,000 years. But this world is not. This world is the cradle of my species, and you have just kicked it. We offer our apologies. We will withdraw immediately." "Too late," Caney said, and Vexthor heard something in her voice that terrified him. It was not anger. It was not hate. It was just cold, calculated certainty. "You came here to take what was not yours. You came armed. You came ready to kill. You do not get to simply leave because you found out your victims can fight back." "What do you want?" Vexthor asked. Caney smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "I want you to understand something, Commander. 50,000 years ago, my people fought things that would drive your species mad just from seeing them. We fought entities that existed partially outside of reality. We fought machine swarms that had consumed 1,000 galaxies before reaching ours. We fought and we won, but the cost was so high that we chose extinction over victory. We chose to forget everything and start over as cavemen rather than continue as we were." She leaned forward, her golden eyes blazing. "Do you understand what that means, Commander? It means that at our worst, at our most desperate, we were so powerful and so terrifying that we scared ourselves, and now you have woken us up." On the lunar surface, the progenitor warriors were ascending to the surface. They wore armor that seemed to be made of solidified starlight. They carried weapons that hummed with barely contained power. And as they rose up out of the breach in the moon's surface, the Karex sensors finally registered what they were facing. The sensor officer on Vexthor's bridge screamed, "Commander, power readings! I am detecting power signatures that should not be possible. Each of those humans is generating more energy than our entire ship." "That cannot be right," Vexthor said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Shall I fire on them, Commander?" Vexthor looked at the readings, looked at the calm face of Commander Caney on his screen, looked at the 500 figures rising from the moon like avenging angels. And for the first time in his career, Commander Vexthor, conqueror of 47 worlds, truly understood what it meant to be prey. Commander Vexthor made his decision. He had not conquered 47 worlds by being timid. If these ancient humans wanted war, he would give it to them. "All ships," he broadcast to his fleet, "battle formations. Prepare to engage hostile forces. Target the moon first. Destroy those armored figures. Then we will deal with the planet." His weapons officer hesitated. "Commander, the power readings. I can read the sensors," Vexthor snapped. "I do not care if their armor glows and hums. They are flesh and blood. Kill them!" The Karex fleet moved into attack position. 300 warships representing the military might of an empire that spanned 47 star systems. Their weapons charged, energy crackling along massive cannons. Their shields shimmered to full strength. On the lunar surface, Commander Caney watched the enemy fleet arrange itself. She sighed. She had given them a chance. One chance to be smart, to withdraw, to go home and tell their children scary stories about the day they almost died. "Sentinel," she said quietly. "Release weapons lock. Authorization Caney Alpha 7. Confirmed, Commander. All progenitor forces are now weapons-free. Rules of engagement: disable first. Destroy only if necessary. Preserve some ships for intelligence gathering." Caney touched a control on her wrist. Her armor responded, unfolding from compact form into full combat configuration. Around her, the other 499 warriors did the same. What had looked like tight bodysuits suddenly expanded into full battle armor that made each warrior look like a walking tank. "Old guard," Caney said, her voice carrying to all her warriors through quantum channels. "We have been asleep for 50,000 years. We went to sleep to forget the horrors of the Void War. We hoped we would never need to wake. But now these aliens have forced our hand. They came to our cradle. They threatened our children. They will learn the price of that mistake. Not with cruelty, not with pleasure, but with absolute certainty. Show them what the progenitors were. Show them why the galaxy was empty when they arrived. Show them why Earth was left alone." The warriors roared in response, not with their voices but with their weapons. Energy signatures that lit up every sensor screen in the Karex fleet like miniature suns. The first Karex ship opened fire. A plasma cannon the size of a building discharged enough energy to vaporize a mountain. The beam crossed the distance between the ship and the moon in less than a second. Commander Caney did not move, did not dodge, did not even raise a hand. The beam struck an invisible barrier 10 meters in front of her and simply stopped. The plasma froze in midair, suspended like a fly in amber. Then the barrier released and the beam shot back toward the Karex ship twice as fast as it had come. The Karex shields absorbed the reflected attack, but barely. Alarms blared across the ship. "What just happened?" Fexthor demanded. "I do not know, Commander." The human just stood there. The beam reversed itself. "All ships, full bombardment. Overwhelm whatever defense they are using." The Karex fleet opened fire with everything they had. 300 warships unleashing enough firepower to crack a planet. The space between the fleet and the moon filled with weapons fire. Missiles, plasma beams, kinetic rounds, energy lances. Every weapon in the Karex arsenal. On Earth, billions of people watched on screens as the moon was engulfed in light. It looked like a second sun had appeared in the sky. "They are going to destroy the moon," someone whispered in the UN bunker. But the British commander, Helen Morrison, shook her head. "No, they are going to regret this." On the moon, the bombardment struck the progenitor warriors' shields. For exactly 3 seconds, the shields held back the assault. Then Commander Caney gave a hand signal. All 500 warriors released their shields at once. The bombardment struck the lunar surface, throwing up massive clouds of dust and debris. Explosions rippled across the gray landscape. In the Karex fleet, cheers erupted. They had done it. The ancient humans were. The dust cleared. All 500 progenitor warriors stood exactly where they had been. Not a single one had moved. Not a single one was harmed. They had dropped their shields deliberately. They had let the bombardment hit them directly. And it had done nothing. Their armor had not even been scratched. Commander Caney looked up at the Karex fleet and smiled. Then she moved. To the Karex sensors, it looked like she simply disappeared. One moment she was on the moon. The next moment she was in space, moving toward the fleet at impossible speeds. No ship, no vehicle. Just her. Flying through the void like gravity and physics were suggestions she chose to ignore. Behind her, the other 499 warriors followed. "Evasive maneuvers," Fexthor screamed. "Do not let them reach the ships, too late." Commander Caney reached the first Karex warship in seconds. She did not slow down. She hit the shields like a meteor. The shields, designed to stop city-destroying weapons, shattered like glass. Caney punched through the hull. The entire ship shuddered. Inside, she moved through the corridors like a ghost. Karex soldiers tried to stop her. They fired their weapons. The energy bolts hit her armor and bounced off harmlessly. She did not kill them. That was important. The new humanity valued life, even enemy life. So instead, she simply touched each soldier as she passed. Her armor's contact systems delivered electromagnetic pulses that shut down their nervous systems. They collapsed, unconscious but alive. It took her 45 seconds to reach the bridge. She tore the door off its hinges and stepped through. The Karex captain stared at her in terror. "Your ship is disabled," Caney said calmly. "Your weapons are offline. Your engines are dead. Your crew is unconscious but unharmed. You are the first. Tell your friends what you have seen here today." She turned and left, leaving the captain alone on a dead ship surrounded by his sleeping crew. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out on ship after ship. The progenitor warriors tore through the Karex fleet like wolves through sheep. But they did not kill. They disabled. They knocked out. They captured. On Vex Thor's command ship, panic had fully set in. Commander! We have lost 40 ships. No, 50. They are just ripping through us. Return fire. Kill them. We are trying, Commander. Our weapons cannot lock on. They move too fast. And when we do hit them, it does nothing. Vex Thor watched his fleet being systematically dismantled. These were not warriors. These were natural disasters in the shape of people. He had brought an army to fight a hurricane. On Earth, the people with awakened memories were mobilizing. Dr. Sarah Chen found herself at a Chinese military base that she had never visited before, but somehow knew every detail of. Hidden systems recognized her DNA and granted her access to restricted areas. She descended into levels that should not exist. Rooms that were not on any blueprint. Technology that looked like someone had built it yesterday, even though it was older than recorded history. Sentinel, she said, somehow knowing the AI could hear her. I am Dr. Sarah Chen. I carry the bloodline of Progenitor Engineer Corps, requesting access to orbital defense grid. Identity confirmed, Sentinel Prime responded. Welcome back, Doctor. The grid is yours. Around the world, similar scenes played out. People who had been ordinary hours ago were now accessing weapons that could reshape continents. But they did not use them, not yet. They simply powered them up and waited. In orbit, the battle continued. Except it was not really a battle. It was a demonstration. The Progenitor warriors were showing the Karex exactly how outmatched they were. Lieutenant Zhao flew through space carrying a Karex destroyer on her back. She literally grabbed the ship and pushed it out of formation. Its engines useless against her strength. She deposited it far from the battle zone and moved to the next target. Sergeant Williams punched a hole through a battleship's engine core with his bare fist. The ship went dead in space, drifting harmlessly. Dr. Okafor, who had been a medic in the old Empire, flew from disabled ship to disabled ship, checking on the Karex crew. Making sure her fellow warriors had not accidentally killed anyone. She had always believed that the measure of civilization was how you treated your enemies, even enemies who had come to destroy you. Then the moon itself began to move. No, not move, transform. The ancient lunar surface split along lines invisible to normal eyes. Sections of the moon's crust lifted away, revealing the technology beneath. What had appeared to be natural craters were actually weapons emplacements. What had seemed like lunar Maria were enormous shield generators. The moon unfolded like a mechanical flower, and at its heart, in a chamber deep beneath the surface, Sentinel Prime activated systems that had been dormant for 50,000 years. Dyson Array Online, the AI announced. Solar collection at maximum. Power reserves infinite. All defense platforms armed. Gravitational lances charged. Reality anchor stable. Temporal shields ready. On Vex Thor's ship, every sensor exploded with warnings. The moon was not a moon. It was a weapon. A weapon the size of a small moon. A weapon that was now pointing at his fleet. Commander. His sensor officer was crying now. The readings. The power. That thing could destroy our entire fleet. It could destroy our entire homeworld. It could destroy a star. Vex Thor felt his legs give out. He collapsed into his command chair. All his conquests. All his victories. All his pride. Gone. Reduced to ash by the simple realization that he had attacked something so far beyond his understanding that he might as well have tried to fight a god. Commander Caney flew back toward the moon, having disabled her assigned targets. She landed on the lunar surface and watched the Karex fleet trying to retreat. Watched them realize their jump drives would not activate. Watched them understand they were trapped. Sentinel, she said. Open a channel to all Karex ships. Channel open, Commander. Caney's face appeared on every screen in the Karex fleet. Behind her, the transformed moon loomed, a monument to power beyond comprehension. Karex Dominion, she said, her voice carrying to every alien soldier, every captain, every commander. You came to Earth expecting to conquer a primitive world. You came with weapons and threats. You came ready to enslave a species of children. And you found us instead. She paused, letting that sink in. We are the Progenitor Defense Force. We are the Old Guard. We fought wars before your species learned to use fire. We battled enemies that would dissolve your minds with a glance. We destroyed threats that spanned galaxies. And when we finally won, when we finally drove back the darkness, we chose to sleep, to forget, to let our species heal and start fresh. Another pause. Her golden eyes blazed with barely contained power. You have woken us up. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was threatening our home. Your third mistake was attacking us. I have disabled your fleet. I have captured 250 of your ships. I could destroy the rest in seconds." The Carrex crews held their breath. "But I am not going to," Caney continued. "Do you know why? Because the humans who live on Earth now, the ones who do not remember what we were, they value mercy. They believe in second chances. They think rehabilitation is better than revenge. And because they are my descendants, because they are what we became after we chose to forget, I am going to honor their wishes." She leaned forward, her face filling every screen. "But make no mistake, if you ever come back, if you ever threaten this world again, if you so much as send a probe into this system, I will not give you mercy. I will give you extinction. Not because I am cruel, but because you will have proven you cannot learn. Go home, Carrex. Tell your empire what you found here. Tell them Earth is off limits forever." Commander Vexthor stared at the screen where Caney's face had been. Around him, his bridge crew sat in shocked silence. They had come to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they had found the remnants of an empire that made their own look like children playing with wooden swords. But Vexthor was not ready to surrender. Not yet. He had one last card to play. "Bring us the World Breaker," he ordered quietly. His weapons officer turned pale. "Commander, that weapon is forbidden by our own laws. The Council said it should never be used again after what happened at—" "I do not care what the Council said," Vexthor roared. "These humans think they can humiliate us? Think they can just let us go like we are misbehaving children? We will show them what happens when you corner the Carrex Dominion." In the deepest hold of his command ship, a weapon that had not been used in 100 years began to wake up. The World Breaker, a device that could crack a planet's core like an egg. The Carrex had used it 3 times in their history. 3 worlds had died screaming. After the third, even the Carrex had been horrified by what they had created. But it still existed, and Vexithor, in his wounded pride and terror, was desperate enough to use it. On the lunar surface, Commander Caney felt the change in energy signatures. Her warrior instincts, honed over centuries of combat, recognized the buildup of power. "Something big was coming, Sentinel," she said. "What are they charging?" "Scanning now, Commander." Oh no." Caney had never heard concern in Sentinel Prime's voice before. "What is it?" "The Carrex command ship is powering up a planet-killing weapon. Design is crude but effective. It will fire a concentrated beam directly at Earth's core. Estimated casualties, all life on the planet. Time to firing, 4 minutes." Caney felt ice run through her veins. Not fear for herself. Fear for the billions of humans on Earth who had no idea what was about to happen. Humans who were her distant children. Her responsibility. Can we stop it? "Multiple options available, Commander. Recommend immediate destruction of the Carrex command ship." Caney almost gave the order. Almost, but she had promised to give them mercy. Had promised to honor the values of new humanity. She could not break that promise at the first sign of trouble. "No," she said. "We disable it. We capture it. Send in strike teams. I want that weapon offline in 3 minutes. Commander, that does not leave much margin for error. Then we better not make any errors." 50 progenitor warriors launched from the moon toward the Carrex command ship. They flew through space at speeds that should have been impossible. 2 minutes to reach the ship. 1 minute to breach the hull and fight their way to the weapon. 1 minute before Earth died. On Earth, people were still celebrating what they thought was a victory. They had seen the Carrex fleet defeated. They thought it was over. They did not know about the World Breaker, but those with awakened memories knew. Dr. Sarah, Chen felt it through the connection to Sentinel Prime. She was standing at the control station of an orbital defense platform, her hands moving across controls she somehow remembered how to use. "Sentinel," she said urgently. "Can the orbital platform stop the World Breaker?" "Negative, Doctor. The beam will be too concentrated. Our shields will slow it, but not stop it." "Then what do we do?" There was a pause. Then Sentinel Prime said something that surprised her. "We trust Commander Caney. She has never failed." On Vexthor's ship, the progenitor strike team was tearing through his defenses. Carrex soldiers tried to stop them. They formed barriers. They locked bulkheads. They fired everything they had. It made no difference. Lieutenant Zhao melted through a locked door with a touch of her hand. Sergeant Williams physically threw a defensive turret across a corridor. Dr. Okafor, the medic, knocked out an entire squad of soldiers with medical darts that her armor produced from reservoirs she did not even know she had. They reached the world breaker chamber with 40 seconds to spare. The weapon was massive. It took up 3 entire decks of the ship. Energy crackled along its length as it charged for firing. CAREX technicians scrambled to complete the firing sequence. "Surrender the weapon," Zhao ordered. The lead technician spat at her. "You cannot stop it. The firing sequence is locked. Even if you kill us all, it will still fire." "Earth will burn," Zhao smiled. It was not a nice smile. "You think we do not know how to disable a planet killer? We invented this technology. You are just using a cheap copy." She flew to the weapon's core, her armor's sensors analyzing its structure. Yes, there. The power coupling. Crude but effective. She reached in and pulled out a component the size of her torso. The weapon's hum dropped several octaves. "Firing sequence interrupted," her armor informed her. "Weapon disabled." Zhao looked at the technicians. "Tell your commander that his last gamble failed." On the command bridge, Vex Thor heard the report. The Worldbreaker was offline. His final weapon, his last desperate move, had been countered in seconds. He slumped in his chair, all fight leaving him. Then Commander Caney appeared on his screen again. But now her face was different. The calm was gone. In its place was cold, hard anger. "You tried to destroy Earth," she said, her voice like ice. "After I offered you mercy. After I told you I would honor the values of new humanity. You tried to kill billions of innocent people. We were desperate," Vex Thor said weakly. "Desperation does not excuse genocide," Caney snapped. "You just proved something to me, Commander. You proved that some people cannot be trusted with mercy. Some people see kindness as weakness. Some people will always choose violence." She took a breath, visibly controlling herself. "But you also proved something else. You proved that I was right to ask new humanity for guidance. Because my instinct right now is to erase you. To make an example of you that the galaxy will remember for 10,000 years. To ensure that no one ever threatens Earth again." Vex Thor felt terror grip his hearts. "Please, but I'm not going to do that," Caney interrupted. "Do you know why? Because that is what the old progenitors would have done. That is who we were before we chose to sleep. And I do not want to be that person again. So instead, I am going to let someone else decide your fate." The screen changed. Now Vex Thor was looking at a room full of humans. Normal humans, not the enhanced warriors. They were sitting around a large table. The UN Security Council. "Commander Vex Thor," the Secretary General said, his voice firm despite his fear. "You came to Earth to enslave us. You threatened our entire species. You attempted to destroy our planet. By any law, human or otherwise, you have committed crimes worthy of the harshest punishment." "I was following orders," Vex Thor tried. "So were the guards at history's worst atrocities," the Secretary General replied. "Following orders is not an excuse. But we are not here to debate that. We are here to determine what happens next." Around the table, representatives from Earth's nations conferred quietly. Then the Secretary General spoke again. "We could execute you. We could imprison you forever. We could turn you over to Commander Caney and her warriors. But none of these options serve justice. They only serve revenge." He leaned forward, looking directly at Vex Thor. "Instead, we offer you a choice. You will return to the CAREX Dominion. You will face trial by your own people for attempting to use a forbidden weapon. You will tell them what you found here. And you will deliver a message." "And what message?" "That Earth is off limits. That humanity is under protection. And that any empire that respects life is welcome to talk with us. But any empire that comes with weapons will face the consequences." Vex Thor blinked in confusion. "You are letting me go?" "We are sending you home," the Secretary General corrected. "With evidence of your attempted genocide. With records of everything you have done. Your own people will judge you. And if they find you guilty, which they will, you will spend the rest of your life explaining to young CAREX children why trying to destroy other civilizations is wrong." It was a punishment worse than death, to be remembered as the commander who had humiliated the CAREX Dominion, who had brought their entire fleet to conquer a primitive world and been defeated in hours, who had tried to destroy a planet and failed. Vex Thor would be a cautionary tale, a joke, a lesson in arrogance. Commander Caney appeared on the screen beside the Secretary General. "I agree with this judgment," she said. "But know this, Commander Vex Thor. You are being spared because these humans are better than we were, better than I am. Do not mistake their mercy for weakness, ever." She turned to face the camera directly. "Now we address the greater issue. Sentinel, show them the records." On every screen in the CAREX fleet, data began streaming. Information about the 47 worlds the Karex had conquered. Details of what they had done. The slavery, the cultural erasure, the mass relocations, the executions of those who resisted. "We hacked your entire computer network hours ago," Caney said coldly. "We have every file, every order, every crime. The Karex dominion is built on the suffering of others. That ends now. You cannot dictate terms to an empire," one of the Karex officers shouted from his ship. "I can," Caney said simply. "I can because I have the power to do so. But I will not. Instead, I will give you the same choice I gave Commander Vexthor. Leave, go home, and make things right." "What do you mean, make things right?" "Every world you conquered will be freed. Every slave will be released. Every culture you tried to erase will be given the chance to rebuild. You will provide reparations. You will face galactic judgment. And you will spend the next century proving that you can change. And if we refuse?" Caney's smile was cold. "Then I stop being nice. Then I stop honoring the wishes of new humanity. Then you learn what the progenitors were really capable of. Do not test me." The Karex fleet sat in silence. They had no choice. They had been beaten so thoroughly that resistance was meaningless. "We will comply," Vexthor said finally, his voice broken. "Good," Caney said. "Sentinel, release their navigation systems. Let them go home." As the Karex fleet began to power up their jump drives, preparing to leave in shame, the UN Security Council watched in amazement. "Is it really over?" someone asked. The British commander, Helen Morrison, shook her head. "No, this is just the beginning. The galaxy now knows Earth exists, knows what we were, what we could be again. Some will fear us, some will seek our help, some will test us like the Karex did. What do we do?" Commander Caney, still on screen, answered that question. "You do what you have been doing. You grow, you learn, you build, you explore. But now you do it with the knowledge of what you came from, and with the protection of those who remember." She looked directly at the Secretary General. "I am going to make you a deal. My warriors and I, we will stay awake. We will watch over Earth, we will be your guardians, your defenders, your link to what we once were. But we will not rule you. We will not make your decisions. The new humanity must find its own path." "And what do we give you in return?" the Secretary General asked. Caney smiled, and for the first time it was a genuine smile. "Hope. You give me hope that we made the right choice, that humanity can be powerful without being cruel, that we can defend ourselves without becoming monsters. You give me a reason to believe that the 50,000 years of sleep were worth it." Outside, the last of the Karex ships jumped away, fleeing into the darkness between stars. They carried with them a lesson that would spread across the galaxy. A warning that would be whispered in alien languages for generations to come. Earth was not undefended. Earth was not primitive. Earth was the cradle of giants. And the giants, though sleeping, had one eye open. 3 weeks after the Karex fled Earth, Commander Aria Caney stood in a place she never thought she would see. A children's museum in London. Around her, young humans ran and laughed, pointing at displays about dinosaurs and ancient civilizations. None of them knew that one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy was standing among them. "Commander," Dr. Okafor said quietly, walking up beside her. "What are you doing here?" Caney gestured at the displays. "Learning, remembering, understanding." She pointed to a recreation of early humans hunting woolly mammoths. "We missed all of this. When we went to sleep, humanity was an empire spanning galaxies. When we woke up, you had forgotten everything and started over. I missed 50,000 years of your growth. Do you regret it?" Okafor asked. "The choice to sleep?" Caney watched a small girl, maybe 6 years old, stare in wonder at a model of the solar system. The girl's eyes were wide with curiosity and joy. "No," Caney said softly. "Look at her. Look at all of them. They are not afraid. They are not traumatized by the things we saw. They have hope, real hope. We gave them that by choosing to forget. But now they have to remember. We brought back the knowledge of what we were." "We brought back the knowledge," Caney agreed. "But they get to choose what to do with it. That is the difference." Across Earth, the integration of progenitor knowledge was causing upheaval. Every government was scrambling to understand the technology that had been hidden beneath their feet for millennia. Scientists were having nervous breakdowns as they realized everything they thought they knew about physics was wrong. Religious leaders were holding emergency councils to discuss what it meant that humanity had built godlike technology and then chose to forget it. But there was also excitement, wonder, pride. Humanity had not always been small. They had once touched the stars and bent them to their will. And now maybe they could do it again. In the UN building, a new council had been formed, the Progenitor Integration Committee. Its job was to decide how to merge old technology with new society. Dr. Sarah Chen was one of its members. The orbital platforms are ready, she reported to the committee. We have restored 43 defense satellites to operational status. Each one is capable of protecting Earth from anything short of a stellar-level threat. Are they automated? A delegate from Brazil asked. Partially. But Sentinel Prime has control, and Sentinel answers to Commander Caney, who answers to us. Does she really answer to us? A delegate from Russia asked skeptically. She has the power to destroy planets. Why would she take orders from humans who cannot even fly without machines? The Secretary General, who still had genetic memories stirring in his mind, answered that question. Because she is not a conqueror. She is a guardian. There is a difference. Conquerors take power. Guardians protect those who cannot protect themselves. And when we no longer need protection, then she goes back to sleep, the Secretary General said. Or she retires. Or she finds something else to do. That is her choice. But for now, while the galaxy is learning that Earth exists, we need her. On the lunar surface, Lieutenant Zhao was training the first batch of new progenitor warriors. These were humans from Earth, volunteers who had awakened genetic memories and wanted to learn the old ways. Young men and women who looked at the stars and felt the call to protect them. Again, Zhao ordered as a recruit tried and failed to activate his armor's flight systems. You are thinking too much. The armor responds to instinct, not thought. Feel where you want to go and let the armor take you there. The recruit, a former fighter pilot from Japan named Takeshi, took a breath and tried again. This time he lifted off the ground, hovering unsteadily in the moon's low gravity. Better, Zhao said. But you are still thinking about flying. Stop thinking. Just be where you want to be. How did you learn this? Takeshi asked, settling back to the ground. I did not learn it, Zhao admitted. I always knew it. But I have been doing this for thousands of years. You have been doing it for 3 days. Give yourself time. Commander Caney makes it look so easy, Zhao laughed. Commander Caney was the best warrior in the Progenitor Empire before she was 30 years old. She fought void entities that would turn your mind inside out. She once held a dimensional breach closed with nothing but her armor and willpower, while an entire planet evacuated behind her. Do not compare yourself to her. You will only disappoint yourself. But even as she said it, Zhao felt a flicker of hope. These new warriors, they had something the old progenitors had lost. They had balance. They trained hard, yes, but they also laughed. They made friends. They talked about their families back on Earth. They were warriors who still remembered how to be human. Maybe that was the point. Maybe that was why humanity had needed to forget and rebuild. To learn that strength without compassion was just cruelty with better weapons. In orbit above Earth, Sentinel Prime monitored everything. The AI had been alone for 50,000 years, watching over sleeping humans in a world that slowly forgot what it had been. Now, for the first time in longer than some species had existed, Sentinel had company. Sentinel, Commander Caney said, connecting to the AI through quantum channels, long-range sensors. Anything unusual? Define unusual, Commander. I detect 3,412 alien civilizations within sensor range. 732 of them have achieved faster-than-light travel. 41 of them are currently engaged in wars. 3 are in the process of making first contact with other species, and 1 appears to be building a Dyson sphere, which I find aesthetically pleasing. Any of them headed toward Earth? Negative. Word has spread about what happened to the Karex. Most civilizations are giving Earth a wide berth. However, I am detecting increased communication traffic about us. We are the hot topic in galactic news. Most interesting headline translation: the sleeping monsters have awakened and they are cranky. Caney chuckled despite herself. Anything that might be a threat? Sentinel's tone became more serious. That depends on your definition of threat. I am detecting anomalous readings in deep space. Sector 4A47. The same sector where we detected void entity activity before the war ended. Caney felt her blood run cold. The void entities, the nightmare that had almost destroyed the Progenitor Empire, creatures that existed partially outside reality. Things that fed on consciousness and drove civilizations mad. The enemy that had forced humanity to reset itself, rather than continue fighting. What kind of anomalous readings? Similar to the dimensional breaches we fought before. But smaller. Much smaller. Like they are testing, probing, seeing if anyone is still watching. Are they coming here? Unknown. But Commander, if they remember us, they know Earth is our cradle. They know this is where humanity was reborn. If they want to hurt us, truly hurt us, this is where they would strike. Caney looked down at Earth, the blue marble hanging in the black void. Billions of people going about their lives. People who had no idea that ancient nightmares might be stirring in the dark between galaxies. How long do we have? She asked. Could be years. Could be centuries. Could be never. The void entities do not experience time the way we do. But if they do come, we need to be ready. Then we prepare, quietly. No need to panic Earth's population. But we wake up the rest of the warriors. All of them. Commander, there are 15,000 warriors still in stasis. Waking them all will require significant resources. Then we use significant resources. If the void entities return, 500 warriors will not be enough. We need everyone. Over the next week, the stasis facilities hidden across the solar system began activation sequences, not just on the moon. There were facilities on Mars buried under the red dust. On Europa, frozen in the ice. In the asteroid belt disguised as ordinary rocks.
On the moons of Saturn and Jupiter.
Everywhere the progenitors had built safe houses just in case. 15,000 warriors began to wake. Most were like Caney and her team, soldiers who had fought in the Void War. But some were different. Engineers who had designed reality-bending weapons, scientists who had studied dimensional physics, artists who had learned to weaponize beauty itself. Diplomats who could negotiate with species so alien that human minds could barely comprehend them. They woke to a galaxy that had forgotten them, to a human civilization that had rebuilt itself from scratch, to a world that was both familiar and completely foreign. One of them was an old man named Marcus Cole. He had been the chief diplomat of the progenitor empire. He had negotiated with species made of pure energy, with hive minds that spanned star systems, with creatures that lived in the cores of stars. He woke up in a stasis pod on Mars, his last memory being the vote to activate the reset protocol. How long? He asked Sentinel Prime. 50,000 years, Ambassador Cole. And humanity? Thriving, different, softer in some ways, stronger in others. They have built a civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. It is fascinating, Cole smiled. So the reset worked. We actually did it. Yes. Though recent events have complicated things. Sentinel filled him in on the Carex incident. Cole listened quietly, nodding occasionally. When the AI finished, Cole asked, "And what does Commander Caney want me to do? Prepare to make contact with other civilizations. The galaxy knows we exist now. We need someone who can talk to them. Someone who can explain what happened. Someone who can build bridges instead of walls." Diplomacy, Cole said. After 50,000 years of being asleep, I get to go back to work. He paused. Does Caney want me to make Earth part of the galactic community? She wants you to give Earth options. Right now, Earth is feared. We need to show the galaxy that humanity is not a threat, unless they make us one. Down on Earth, the children who had been in the London Museum were going home. The little girl who had stared at the solar system model was sitting at her dinner table, telling her parents about her day. And there was this really tall lady, the girl said. She had silver hair and golden eyes, and she was really pretty. She was looking at everything like she had never seen it before. That is nice, dear, her mother said, not really paying attention. She told me something, the girl continued. When I asked her if she liked space, she said yes. She said space is beautiful, but she said Earth is more beautiful because Earth has us. What do you think she meant? The father looked at his daughter and smiled. I think she meant that people are more important than planets. Oh. The girl thought about that. I think I agree. If she had understood who she had been talking to, she might have been terrified. But she did not know. She was just a child who had met a nice lady at a museum, and that was exactly how Commander Caney wanted it. Later that night, Caney stood on the lunar surface looking down at Earth. Around her, 15,000 warriors were adapting to their new reality. Learning about modern Earth, practicing with weapons they had not used in 50,000 years. preparing for a threat that might never come. Lieutenant Zhao joined her. Do you think they will come back? The void entities? I do not know, Caney admitted. Maybe they are gone. Maybe we truly defeated them. Maybe the dimensional breaches Sentinel is detecting are just echoes, ghosts of an old war. But you do not believe that. No, I do not. Something woke us up. Not the Karex. They were just the excuse. Something wanted us awake. Something wanted humanity to remember. I can feel it. Oh, what do we do? Caney smiled. We do what we always did. We stand guard. We watch the darkness. We protect the innocent. And if the monsters come back, we remind them why they feared us the first time. She turned to face Zhao fully, but this time is different. This time we fight not just with strength, but with the values that new humanity has built. We fight with honor, with mercy when possible, with justice. We show the galaxy that humanity can be powerful without being cruel, that we can defend ourselves without becoming the monsters we fight. And if that is not enough, then we do what must be done, but we try the better way first. Across the galaxy, in the dark spaces between stars, something stirred, something ancient, something that remembered the taste of human consciousness. It had been sleeping too, healing from wounds inflicted by the progenitor empire in a war that had raged for centuries. But now it felt them, the humans, the ones who had hurt it so badly. They were awake again, and they were vulnerable, concentrated in one small system, one little blue planet. The void entity did not feel hate. It did not feel anger. It barely felt anything humans would recognize as emotion, but it did feel hunger, and it remembered. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, an ancient temple that humans had never found began to glow. Progenitor warning systems buried for 50,000 years activated. Sentinel Prime detected the energy signature immediately. Commander Caney, the AI said urgently, we have a problem. And so the next chapter of humanity's story began. They had reclaimed their legacy. They had driven off invaders. They had shown the galaxy that Earth was protected. But now they would face the real test. The test that had broken them the first time. The enemy that had forced them to forget everything and start over. The void entities were coming back. But this time, humanity was ready. They had the strength of the progenitors. They had the wisdom of 50,000 years of growth. They had warriors who remembered how to fight impossible battles. And they had something the old progenitors had never had. They had hope. Real, genuine hope that maybe, just maybe, they could win without losing themselves in the process. Commander Arya Caney stood on the moon, surrounded by 15,000 warriors, watching over a world of 8 billion souls. She did not know what the future would bring. She did not know if they would survive what was coming. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. The cradle would be defended. Earth would stand, and anyone or anything that threatened humanity's home would learn why the progenitors were legends. Why they had once ruled galaxies, and why, even after 50,000 years of sleep, they were still the most dangerous species in the universe. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the smartest, not because they had the best weapons, but because they never ever gave up. The stars turned, the galaxy watched, and Earth, the cradle of giants, stood ready for whatever came next.